Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories. We have stories that should thrill you a little and chill you a little.
It's amazing.
You will hear adventures sent in by you guys, classic stories from the pulp mags, and episodes from the golden age of radio. We have special segments like Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
That's amazing.
And the Paranormal with Jason.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
So settle in for the next hour and enjoy the show. Oh, and you just might want to prepare yourself to be taken away from today.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by me.
That's right. We have an FFM presented by British Guy.
Ron, I prefer the term citizen of the United Kingdom. It is more correct.
Okay then. This mystery is being brought to you by a citizen of the United Kingdom.
Thank you.
This must be a big case we're headed for, Inspector.
Well, you're right in a way, Stokes. I've known old Sherry, the man who's been murdered, for a long time.
Isn't he the guy who owned a lot of diamonds?
Yes, he had several very valuable ones in his collection. And I think somebody killed Sherry for those diamonds.
Any idea who?
We'll find that out after we get inside.
Oh, hello, Inspector Crothers. I'm glad you got here so soon.
Oh, hello, Dr. Matthews. I brought Sergeant Stokes along to help.
Fine. Come on in, won't you? The man who phoned me, Mr. Sayers, is in the study where they found Sherry.
We'll come along after you, Doctor.
Inspector Crothers, this is Mr. Sayers who found Mr. Sherry unconscious when he came in.
How do you do, Mr. Sayers?
Holy Moses, look at this place. Looks as though a cyclone had struck it.
Now, tell us what happened, won't you, Mr. Sayers? I'd like to get the story straight.
Well, in a very confidential capacity, I represent a large diamond buying syndicate. Mr. Sherry was known to have a very extensive collection of gems, one specimen in particular that our firm wanted to buy.
And you were sent to see if he would sell it?
That's right. I made an appointment with Mr. Sherry for this evening. He said to come here and that he might be back here in the study and not hear the bell. If no one answered, I was to come right in. He would leave the door unlocked for me.
Isn't that a rather strange thing for a man to do who has a valuable collection of diamonds in his house?
Well, I thought so at the time, but I thought also that Mr. Sherry was perhaps, well, eccentric. You see, I'd never met him, nor, as a matter of fact, heard of him until yesterday. I come from another part of the country, you see.
And he was alone?
Completely. You can imagine how shocked I was at finding Mr. Sherry lying on the floor by the desk, unconscious, and the room all upset.
When Mr. Sayers phoned me, I imagined that Sherry was suffering from one of his chronic attacks. However, I find that the man has been hit at the base of the skull by a powerful blow, breaking his neck and killing him instantly.
You say you were familiar with Mr. Sherry's chronic attacks, Doctor?
Yes, I've been Mr. Sherry's personal physician for many years.
That was why I phoned Dr. Matthews, Inspector. I knew that he would be able to offer the best help.
Mr. Sayers, your theory is a very nicely calculated one. In fact, I would have acted on it if it hadn't been for one thing. As it is, though, I'm holding you for the murder of Mr. Sherry and for the attempted theft of his diamond collection.
What mistake did Sayers make that caused the inspector to hold him on a definite charge of murder? In just a moment, we'll tell you, but first...
Wow. Being held for 2 crimes.
Yes, that is quite unusual.
Well, one thing we know is that there was a fight.
Ron, I think you mean that there appears to have been a fight.
True, it could have been staged.
Indeed.
I think the real damning evidence is, how in the heck did he know to call Old Man Sherry's doctor in the first place?
That bothers me as well. Shall we listen to the conclusion?
Indeed. Let's go hear what the inspector has to say.
And now, back to our 5-minute mystery.
Hold me for murder? Why, Inspector, I told you...
I know, Mr. Sayers. You told me a little too much. When you said you had never met Sherry, nor heard of him until a day ago, everything was fine. But when you said you called his personal physician purposely, you caught yourself. If you knew nothing about Sherry, you couldn't have known who his personal physician was.
Say, Inspector, that's pretty clever. Pretty clever.
Well, as 5-minute mysteries go, that one was quite good.
It was, and it was solvable with just the information provided.
Quite rare.
Agreed. This 5-minute mystery was brought to you by a citizen of the United Kingdom.
That would be me.
Yes, it would.
What's that you say?
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming back, and if this is your first time listening to the show, I think you're going to enjoy it. On the program today, we have an incredibly creepy story sent in by Faye from Virginia. This one ties an old train station to a haunting with freaky results. Then we have something we've never heard before. Buck Rogers joins the RAS lineup with a story about a stolen rocket ship and a Gyro-Cosmic Realivator. After we listen to this one, I have a challenge for each and every one of you, so hang around for that and please take part. Corey Fletcher from Parts Unknown sent in this question. Ron, I see you're getting close to 500 episodes, and I know that with each milestone you plan something pretty cool. What are you going to do this time? Well, Corey, you're right. I do have something in the works. Over the last few years, I've become interested in and have even experienced a time slip. I'm going to be putting a panel together to talk about this phenomenon, and it will include time loss as well. So if you have stories about these paranormal events, please send them in. I already have one great story from Tamara, and she has hinted at adding in a second. How about that? A quick thank you to the people of the Philippines. Last week's podcast went all the way up to number 7 on the charts, and the podcast is now holding at 66th on the fiction charts. That is amazing. Now let's get on with the show with this from Audible. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, computer, Kindle. Whatever you have, you can listen to Audible on it. So what am I listening to right now? Stargazer by Dan Wells. I have reviewed Zero G, Dragon Planet, and now we look at Stargazer, which is the third installment of the Zero G Chronicles. This one might be the best of the three, but not just because of the story. This is an all-out production with a cast of 15 voice actors. Audible has gone all out to make this one an amazing experience. Here is a clip from the book.
The spaceships that flew from Earth to Murasaki, the first human colonies outside of the solar system, on planets called Genji and Kaguya, took 105 years to get there. They were traveling about 1/5 the speed of light, which is faster than most Earth scientists ever thought humans would ever be able to go. By the time those colonists got to Murasaki, the people who waved goodbye to them had already died of old age, and their grandchildren were looking up into the sky and wondering how that colony was doing. Were they happy? Were they safe? Were they even still alive? For Zero Huang, a 12-year-old colonist on Kaguya, the answer to all three questions was a resounding yes. Especially today, because his mother, Dr. Yubi Huang, was taking him up in an airship.
Are you sure you're ready?
Zero rolled his eyes.
Yes, you've already asked us that 50 times. We're fine.
That was Nyx. She was a pink-haired former pirate and Zero's best friend, and now literally his sister, with an official adoption and everything. He was 12 and she was 13.
I know you're probably fine, but we have safety procedures for a reason, and we're going to follow them all. Rebreathers?
Check.
Kaguya's air was safe to breathe, but it had a gas called xenon that worked like a sedative. It would knock you right out if you breathed too much of it. Everyone who went outside had to wear a rebreather, a little clear plastic mask that covered the mouth and nose and filtered all the xenon out of the air as they breathed it. Nyx, Zero, and his mom all put on their rebreathers and moved to the next item on the list.
Safety harness.
Both kids held up a sturdy nylon strap.
Check.
One end of each strap attached to their jumpsuits, and the other end attached to a rugged metal hook. They could use the hook to connect themselves to the airship to make sure they didn't fall out. But falling out, Zero knew, might be the best part.
Gliders.
Zero couldn't help but grin.
Check.
All three wore a backpack with a set of spring-loaded wings that could pop out in a heartbeat if anyone actually fell out of the ship. The gravity on Kaguya was far lighter than the gravity on Earth, and the air was much heavier. And these two things combined to make flying on Kaguya incredibly easy. The two kids could probably get airborne with nothing more than a good running leap and fly on the gliders that way. Though, so far, they'd never been allowed to. Dr. Huang looked at them, and at their eager, manic smiles, and shook her head sternly.
No falling out of the airship on purpose. Those gliders are an emergency precaution only. And if I think for 1 second that you created a false emergency just so you could fly around, I will ground you to the interstation for a week. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Good. Now, the last thing on the list.
She held up a squat black box. 5 of its sides were solid plastic, printed in the colony's fabricator. But the 6th side was soft mesh, like a speaker. Zero frowned at it.
Are we gonna listen to music?
I hope not. This is a dragon repeller. So if we're lucky, we won't even have to turn it on.
Gliders and airships weren't the only things on Kaguya that could fly. Most of the local creatures, called exofauna, could fly as well. And because flying was so easy, some of those creatures were enormous. The largest was something the scientists had named Parvulos numenor, though in practice, everybody just called them dragons. They had a wingspan of more than 100 feet, far larger than the airship, and crystalline claws and fangs that could cut through armor like it wasn't even there.
A dragon repeller? Doesn't sound attract them?
Most sounds do, but the engineers have finally found a sound that they hate. It doesn't make them mad. That would be dangerous. It just makes them uncomfortable, so they fly away to escape it. It's like the dragon version of a knife scraping on glass.
Does it work?
We've tested it pretty extensively. We should be fine.
I'm excited. Let's go!
In this one, Zero, Nyx, and the other Pathfinder colonists have adjusted to life on Kagula. But Earth has built much faster starships, and the Dreamcatcher arrives 10 years early. But that's not the cool part. The Ark ship Stargazer arrives so early that it actually got there 40 years before the Pathfinder did. Mind-boggling. Now, the Stargazer is a lost shipwreck, and the race is on to find it. And who should show up looking for it but Nyx's dangerous pirate family, Big Mama, Jim, and Krat. Nyx and Zero will face kidnappers, pirates, shipwrecks, warlords, dragons, and maybe a new ally or two on their way to save the day once again. Now, if this sounds like something you would like to hear, you can have this one today. Here's what Audible has set up for us. They are offering a free audiobook and 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This includes free access to the Audible Plus catalog, which is updated monthly with brand new titles. To download your free audiobook, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories, and you can have Stargazer, Book 3 of the Zero G Chronicles. Thank you, Audible. And now it's time for your stories.
These are your stories, sent by you, for you.
Our story comes from the city of Chester, Virginia, and was sent in by Faye Rogers. It is quite creepy, and Faye has titled it Dagger Heart Station. Hello, Ron. I have a story that I've been wanting to share with everyone for a while. It involves a building that my friend and I found in the woods over a decade ago that was truly haunted, or just a place of pure evil. I don't think we'll ever know. Maybe, for whatever crazy reason, someone has come across this place as well, and I would love to hear about it. On a pretty busy street across from a Walmart shopping center, there is a veterinarian office. Behind this office are nothing but woods. Not that far off into the woods was an abandoned building that a couple of my friends had heard some crazy rumors about. We were deep into ghost hunting around this time and just had to go see this for ourselves. We parked at the vet's office parking lot and made our way into the woods. After about 2 minutes of walking, we see it. An odd-shaped building with a couple broken-down vehicles to the side of it. No driveway, no mailbox, no type of yard. We looked around the area and we could still see the vet's office. We could see the street and the cars passing through the trees. All we could think about is, what the heck is this random thing doing here? We slowly made our way inside. When we walked through the double-wide front door, the first thing we saw was a purse hanging from the ceiling. There were stairs to the right, and near those on the ground was another purse and a child's pink jacket. It's been over a decade now, and I remember this all so very vividly. The floor was completely warped, as if it had been flooded at some point. There was no graffiti anywhere, which I thought was odd. To the left was a room that I will never forget and will drive me crazy to this day. The door was closed. We walked into it, and every wall was covered with Bible passages. Someone had ripped pages out one by one out of the Bible and taped them over every part of every wall. The only area that wasn't completely covered had a hand-painted image in the middle of it. It was a dagger going through a heart. I'd say it was about 4 feet tall and 3 feet wide. It was the weirdest, most unnerving thing I had ever seen. The vibes I got, not just in the building, but this specific room, were unspeakably negative. What the hell could have been going on here? We decided to take a peek upstairs. Nothing nearly as crazy as already described, but still weird. A fold-out chair was facing the window, and an old coffee cup was still on the sill. One twin-size mattress was on the floor, and a small rendition of the heart and dagger was also drawn on the floor. You just knew something wasn't right here. The place was a dead quiet. We were looking around when suddenly we heard a scream. It was full of anguish and anger. I can still feel it in my bones, and yes, I do mean feel it. It sounded like it was coming from downstairs. We ran down there, and what we saw was hard to describe. A body was hanging from the ceiling where the purse was before. The pink child's coat was wrapped around it, and it was thrashing about like it was in its death thralls. My friend screamed and ran out the front door. I soon followed, being chased out by a second scream from the thing. A couple years later, we went back. The place had fallen into further decay, and someone had hauled off the cars. We decided to take some pictures. We saw tons of orbs in them. We took a picture of the upstairs window from the outside. There was a very distinct red orb hovering there. Guess it could have been dust. Who knows? I do know that there are some twisted people out there, and I think something bad happened in that place. I drove by this area today, and it made me want to share this story. The woods have been cleared out now, and the building no longer exists. I can't believe there's never been made any mention of this place since then or before. Faye Rogers, Chester, Virginia. Well, Faye, I tried to do some research on your story and the address you sent me. I wanted to help try to make some sense of it. What I came up with is that I think your building may at one time have been a train station. Chester's original downtown was a stop of the Richmond and Petersburg Railroad, running north to south. The two services merged with the Atlantic coastline, and that new railroad became the Tidewater Railroad in 1905. The Chester station was closed down, but the land remained property of the railroad. Now, this doesn't explain what happened there, but it might explain why your building was in the middle of nowhere. Thank you for your story. Well, that's it for this time. If you have a story you want to share, like Faye did, head to the main website at ronsamazingstories.com and click on the story submission banner. Leave your story, give it a title, and tell me where you're from. I'll read it if I can. Our featured story this week comes from the golden age of radio. Buck Rogers was originally broadcast as a 15-minute show on CBS Radio from Monday through Thursday. It was a drama series based on the popularity of the novel and comic series. It was notable for being the first science fiction radio show in history. How about that? What we'll hear is a story that aired between April 5th through the 30th in 1939. It has the odd name of the Gyro-Cosmic Realivator and also manages to give us some history of Buck Rogers himself.
Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
Buck Rogers is back on the air. Buck and Wilma and all their fascinating friends and mysterious enemies in the super-scientific 25th century. As you probably know, Buck was born right here in our own times, in this 20th century. The story of how he got started on his amazing adventures so far in the future is mighty interesting. But instead of telling you about it, let's turn the dial that'll project us ahead in time and find out all about it that way. Now, the capital of 25th century America is Niagara. And there it is that Dr. Hewer, the great scientist, has his marvelous laboratory. In one room of it, he's working on a strange-looking device that sends a peculiar greenish light down onto a human figure lying on a table before him. Shall we join him there? Okay, then, here we go, 500 years into the future.
Ray is putting you to sleep. To sleep. Relax and sleep. 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 Good. The ray's had its effect. Now I can go ahead. Yes, come in. Oh, hello, Wilma.
Hello, Dr. Hewer. Hi, why don't you have more light in here? Coming in from outside, I can hardly see a thing in this spooky greenish glow.
Part of a little experiment I'm conducting.
Oh.
But tell me, have you seen anything of Black Barney? Here in Niagara?
Why, no. Hasn't given up his job of Prime Minister on Mars, has he?
Oh, no. But one of his Martian rocket ship factories has worked out a new control device for me. I rather hoped he'd get here with it today.
Oh.
Meantime, I've made ready for a final test of this little invention here. Like to stay and see it?
I'd love to, Doctor, and you know it, but I just dropped in to find out if you've seen any sign... Oh.
What's the matter?
Doctor, what's happened to him?
Eh?
Is he all right? Doctor!
I see.
What's happened to him? Why is he lying here on the table?
Don't worry, Wilma.
Don't worry. Doctor, what are you...
He is offered to be the subject of my test, that's all.
But then, why is he...
Simply lying here, comfortably asleep, under the influence of my electro-hypnotic ray.
Oh. I was afraid something had happened to him.
Not a thing. Surely you don't think for a minute that I'd do anything
No, of course not. But the electro-hypnotic ray... Are you sure this experiment won't hurt him in any way?
Oh, absolutely sure.
Well, you can't blame me for being a little shocked for a minute. But what's that thing up near his head that looks like a miniature power plant with a loudspeaker on top of it?
That, Wilma, is my latest scientific achievement. My newly perfected electro-hypno-mentalophone.
Your what?
Well, you remember the mentaloscope, don't you?
Sure. When you put a person under the mentaloscope, all his memories showed up on a sort of moving picture screen.
That's right. And this is an adaptation of it.
Oh.
With this, the electro-hypno-mentalophone, the memories of the subject will come to us verbally, through the loudspeaker here. Provided, of course, that my calculations have been correct.
Sort of read a person's mind aloud, you mean?
Yes, that's it exactly.
Where do you ever get ideas for things like this, Dr. Hewer? Surely people don't just barge in and ask you to work them out.
Hardly. The scientific research and experimentation that led up to the development of this machine was started way back in the 20th century.
Why, I always thought that the people back in the 20th century weren't much better than savages in what they knew about scientific things.
Oh, not at all, Wilma. We owe a great deal to the scientists of those days. Were it not for the groundwork laid by men like Einstein, Fitzgerald, Compton, Millikan, and the rest, we'd be without a great many of the things we have today.
They never really got anywhere with rocket ship development, or anything like that, though, did they?
Well, successful rocket flight depends on two things that have been brought into existence only recently.
One of them must be a neutron.
Yes, a neutron. The material that defies gravity and makes it possible to lift a big spaceship off the Earth and away from its terrific gravitational pull without too much waste of power.
And what's the other?
Impervium. The only metal capable of withstanding the high temperature of rocket blast for any length of time.
Oh.
But now, let's go ahead with this experiment.
Yes, let's. And you can tell me how this apparatus works as we go along, just what it does to him.
Well, not very much to tell you about the apparatus itself, Wilma, except that here, in this little pad under his head, is an extremely sensitive and high-frequency response piezoelectric oscillator of quite complicated design.
Yes, I guess so.
Yes. And I've succeeded in tuning it to receive the minute electronic impulses that emanate from his brain.
Yeah.
Through the medium of a super-radiating protonoformer.
Oh, yes, Oh, what?
In other words, we're able to obtain sufficient amplification of the impulse output to register audibly through a process of thermionic note magnification. That's all there is to it.
I think I'll understand it better when I see this thing work.
I should be very much disappointed if it doesn't.
Oh, don't you worry about that, Doctor. Your inventions always work.
I have been rather lucky in most of my experiments, haven't I?
Lucky.
Well, now let's proceed with this one.
All right. Anything I can do to help?
No, thanks. First of all, we'll have to switch in the electronoformer.
Gives the electronoformer a sort of eerie sound.
Yes. And now, when I switch on this microphone and speak to him, my words will be registered directly on his brain. Not through his ears, you understand, but directly on his brain.
Uh-huh.
And if we're successful, we'll receive his subconscious response through the loudspeaker.
Go ahead, Doctor.
Now, young man, what is your name? I said, what is your name?
Buck Rogers.
Wilma, it works.
But, Doctor...
My invention's a success.
Doctor, what happened?
It works even better than I thought it would.
He didn't move his lips, though. And how could we hear him talk if he didn't move his lips?
It read his mind aloud, Wilma. It read his mind aloud.
Sounded like his real voice, though.
Well, of course. Because he thinks of speech in the same manner that he utters it.
Great day, it doesn't seem possible. Ask him some more questions.
Yes, by all means. Listen. Buck, you were born back in the 20th century, were you not?
Yes, sir. But this is the 25th century.
Do you see, Wilma? His memory's preserved intact.
May I ask him a question?
Surely, go ahead. Go ahead.
Buck, how did you happen to come to the 25th century?
One day in the year 1919, I was in the lower workings of an abandoned mine near the city of Pittsburgh.
Yes?
All of a sudden, the supports that held up the walls and ceiling gave way and the whole thing caved in on me.
Yes?
Some kind of peculiar gas was released. It put me to sleep. It kept me in a state of suspended animation for 500 years. Then the ground shifted and let in fresh air and I woke up.
Well, how did you know you were in suspended animation for 500 years?
Instead of the year 1919, it was the year 24-something. To be exact, it was 24...
How did you know what year it was?
I was told about it by Lieutenant Wilma Deering, a beautiful girl soldier I met when I first hit her.
Oh, then you knew Wilma Deering.
Oh, I certainly do. She's the finest and bravest girl who ever lived. Why, Wilma...
Buck Rogers?
Yes?
Did you find anything new and different when you first came into the 25th century?
Oh, a great deal, thanks to Dr. Hewer.
Dr. Hewer?
The greatest scientist who ever lived.
What's this?
Nowhere in the universe is there a scientist who's done so much good for humanity, or done anything that can even...
Wait. Wait a minute, Buck.
Yes?
Just forget Dr. Hewer and go on with what you were saying.
But he's the man who invented the first rocket ship that took us to the moon. And it was that trip that proved the practicability of interplanetary flight.
Practicability of interplanetary flight? Nothing wrong with this machine, Doctor.
Where else have you gone by rocket ship, Buck?
First to Mars, where we helped King and Aldo put down an invasion by the Martian Tiger Men.
Yes?
Then to Saturn and the Saturnian moon, Venus, Jupiter, and even far-off Pluto.
Which planet did you find most interesting?
Well, that's hard to say. Jupiter has the biggest field for exploration simply because it's so much larger than the rest of the planets.
Very true. Do you expect to do any more rocketing around through outer space?
Well, there's nothing else I'd rather do, sir.
Well, Wilma, do you like my little contraption?
Oh, it's wonderful, Doctor. I told you it would work.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to ask Buck before I turn off this green ray?
Let's wake him up and see if he remembers anything that happened during the experiment.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. Come on, Buck. Wake up.
Huh?
I say, wake up. You've been asleep.
Sleep?
Uh-huh.
Oh, hello, Wilma.
Hello.
Hey, where'd you come from? What are you doing here?
I've just been let in on the test of Dr. Hewer's
Electro-hypno-mentalophone.
Yeah.
Oh, doggone it. Instead of helping you with your test, I fell asleep. Say, I'm awfully sorry, Doctor.
Sorry?
Oh, yes, sir. I was going to help
Buck,
you.
I put you to sleep with this machine.
Oh, really?
That's right.
Well, I guess that's one on me, then. How'd it work?
Even better than I expected.
Oh, good.
Oh, it was marvelous, Buck. You told us your whole life history without even opening your mouth.
Hey, now, wait a minute.
It's all right, Buck. You didn't say a single thing you shouldn't have.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Let's put Wilma under it.
Oh, no, you don't.
Oh, you have to do something for excitement around here. Come on, Wilma.
Oh, you're never satisfied unless there's something exciting going on, are you, Buck?
Well, it's not as bad as all that, Doctor, but things have been sort of slow around here lately. And
wait until we start making tests of the new type of Gyro-Cosmic Realivator I've just devised.
A new one?
Isn't that the equipment on a rocket ship that makes it possible to take off without much loss of time for pickup?
That's right. And without the usual physical effects of too quick acceleration. It removes from your ship the normal effects of weight and inertia and momentum and the like.
Well, how have you improved the Relativator, Doctor?
Buck, if this new instrument does what I hope it will, there'll be practically no limit to the speed of a rocket ship immediately upon taking off.
Good night. Imagine getting into the control cabin, opening the power lever, and going a couple of 1,000 miles an hour, just like that.
That's exactly what we'll be able to do, Wilma.
Boy, that hardly seems possible, does it? But when can we test it out, Doctor? Have you already got it installed on a rocket ship?
No, Buck. As a matter of fact, I don't even have it yet.
Huh?
Oh, it's been made up all right. The one we'll use for the test, but it isn't right here yet.
I don't understand, Doctor.
Well, yes, sir. Can't we get it here? The sooner we can get it and start trying it out, the sooner we can break the monotony of just sitting around here doing...
Wait, Buck. Listen.
Yes, Doctor. I hear it, too.
Oh, yeah.
Hear it?
Yes, sir. But what under the sun is it?
Look here, out of the window.
Look, heavens, Wilma! And it's coming right down this way. Wilma!
Oh! Say, Buck's wish for excitement certainly came true in a hurry. Great day. I wonder what that was. And I certainly hope he and Wilma and Dr. Hewer are all right.
Good night.
Hey, come on, folks. Whoever's in that rocket ship that crashed out there is going to need help.
Yes, Buck.
Come on.
I'm with you, Buck. It looked to me as though it deliberately cracked up right outside this laboratory.
Wilma's right, Buck. It certainly didn't look like a ship out of control.
Well, you can hardly call it an ordinary landing, and we'd better give whoever's in it... Hey, look, it's a Martian ship.
Right. See, the metal door on the side of it is open.
Wait, it's all right.
Wait?
All right, Doctor. Well, the people in that ship must be...
Wait, Buck. And listen.
Gene always. It's just exactly like I told you to be. Here we are, safe and sound, and right on time.
That's Barney.
Oh, well, I'll be doggone.
I still don't think we needed to land that fast, Mr. Barney.
And Willie's with him.
You see? He made me skin my knee against the control board.
Well, what difference does that make? We had to get down here in a hurry, didn't we?
My knee hurts, too.
And the only way was to land in a hurry so's we... Huh?
See?
Say, you did kind of get scratched up there now, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Here, Willie, you just put your arm around my shoulder and I'll carry you right straight over to a hospital, yeah.
Oh, it isn't hurt that bad, Mr. Barney.
What do you mean it ain't hurt that bad?
Only I just thought maybe you didn't care.
Oh.
And anyhow, what about that important package you have on board here for Dr. Hewer?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, sir, we better get that gyro thing in Dr. Ewer's laboratory right this minute.
We'll take care of it, Barney.
Huh? Oh, hello, Dr. Ewer.
Hello. Hello, Willie. How are you?
Say, Doctor, how'd you know we got here?
Oh, don't worry, Barney. After that landing, the whole city knows you're here.
I should say so. It's a wonder you didn't break your neck.
Well, Dr. Ewer was in a hurry to get a hold of that gyro thing we brung down from Mars, so I figured the quicker we landed with it, the better.
Well, I hope it's all right after that landing.
Oh, sure it is, Doctor. I got it stowed away in the shock-insulated storage cabin.
Fine. Then my suggestion is that we fly right over to the spaceport. We'll have the Gyro-Cosmic Realivator installed on a ship I have waiting for it over there.
Oh, good. Then we can go right ahead and test it out.
Yes.
Well, Willie here needs to expose his bruised knee to a healing ray for a few minutes.
Oh, that's all right, Lieutenant Wilmer.
No, sir, now, Willie. You do what Lieutenant Wilmer says to do.
It doesn't hurt, though. Much.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Barney, my little rocket roadster is parked out back of the laboratory building.
Yeah?
So you and Willie hop into that and go over to the hospital where they'll take care of that bruised knee. And meanwhile, we three will take this ship of yours over to the spaceport and install the Gyro-Cosmic Realivator on whatever sort of craft Dr. Hewer has waiting for it over there.
Okay, Captain Rogers, we'll do it. Come on, Willie.
Yes, sir. See you later.
All right, Willie.
Wait a minute. Listen, Doctor.
Yes, Barney?
Are you three gonna try out that gyro thing, or are you gonna have somebody else do it for you?
Why, we'll do it, of course.
Well, are you sure it won't be, too dangerous, Doctor?
Dangerous? Oh, no.
Oh, don't you laugh, Doctor. If it'll do all the things you told me by radio it would do, why, it sounds to me like it might be dangerous or stuff.
No, not at all. And if you hustle over to the hospital with Willie, you can probably get out of the spaceport before we take off with it.
Yeah, okay, Doctor. Okay. Come on, Willie.
And come on, Wilma, Doctor. Let's get aboard here and over to the spaceport.
Yes, Buck. Now that the time to test this Gyro-Cosmic Realivator is here, I'm almost as excited about it as you appear to be.
All set, Buck. So's the metal door.
Right. Want to take the controls, Doctor?
All right, Buck. Here we go.
Huh. Never know this ship had been through that crash landing, would you?
Well, I don't know whether you've noticed it, Buck, but all these Martian ships are made very solidly.
Yeah, that's true. They're not very fast, but tough.
Well, isn't that perfectly natural? They're all made under Barney's supervision.
Right. But while you're steering us over to the spaceport, Doctor, I'm going to unpack the Gyro-Cosmic Realivator back here. Then we can begin installation on the other ship just as soon as we get there.
That's a good idea, Buck. And I'll radio ahead to Joe Martin there at the spaceport and have men and tools ready in order to save time. Calling Joe Martin at spaceport. This is Dr. Hewer calling Joe Martin at spaceport. Calling Joe Martin. Have your men fade the bank of photoelectric cells into that aperture in the main bank of rocket tubes.
Yes, sir, Dr. Yor. All right, Al. Swing it right over here.
That's it. And as soon as you're through with the installation, have all this machinery cleared away.
Yes, sir. Should be all set for the tryout in a couple of minutes now, shouldn't it, Doctor?
Yes, Buck. Just as soon as they finish bolting down that side plate.
Oh, good. I'm anxious to get started with this experimental flight.
Wonder if Barney and Willie will get here before we take off. Barney apparently was quite interested in the Gyro-Cosmic Realivator.
Now, how about this power line, Doctor?
Oh, plug it into outlet number 1 there, Buck.
All right, sir. There it is, Doctor. It's all right. Uh-oh.
What's the matter, Buck?
Oh, nothing. I just scratched the back of my hand a bit, that's all. All ready for the takeoff now, Doctor.
Fine, Joe. Tell your men to clear away and we'll go right up.
Yes, sir. They're on their way back to the main hangar now.
Good. Well, Buck, Wilma.
Say, look here, Buck. You've taken a really big piece of skin off the back of your hand here.
Oh, forget it. Let's get up in the air in this rocket ship.
Sir, you're as bad as Willie was. Joe,
Yes, Lieutenant?
don't you have a healing ray in your office?
Oh, sure, Lieutenant. Oh, forget it, Wilma. It'll be all right.
No, sir. Come on over to the office with me and we'll put your hand under the healing ray for a minute.
Well, but... Oh, okay.
I'll go along with you so I can report to Central Radio Bureau and tell them where we are.
It's this way, right over here. It's silly to worry about a little scratch like this, Wilma. I'm anxious to get aloft for that Gyro-Cosmic Realivator on the ship. Right in here, Lieutenant Wilma. The healing ray's right there in the corner.
Here, Buck. Now put your hand under it while I turn it on.
Oh, okay.
There now. And don't turn it off until your hand is completely healed.
No, let's see. Where's this radio unit of yours, Joe?
Right here, Doctor. Oh, excuse me, sir. There's a call coming in on it now. Central Spaceport. Joe Martin speaking.
Central Radio Bureau. You seen anything of Dr. Hewer? We've been trying to locate him all over the city.
Why, sure. He's right here. Here, Doctor. This call's for you.
Oh, thank you. Is it Dr. Hewer?
Urgent message for you, Dr. Hewer. The captain of the rocket police.
Yes?
It says that one of the air guards has just discovered that your laboratory has been forcibly entered and completely ransacked.
What? Why, I just left there a few minutes ago.
Well, it was only discovered a couple of minutes ago. Shall I tell the captain you'll be right over?
No, as long as the rocket police are already there, no more damage will be done. I'm engaged in a very important experiment here that I can't leave at the moment. I'll go back to my laboratory just as soon as I've finished with it. Meantime, they'll know what measures need to be taken and can proceed accordingly.
Yes, sir.
Signing off.
Signing off.
Well, can't say that I like that.
Say, maybe we'd better postpone this test, Doctor.
No, Buck. It's the most important thing we have at hand right now, and we'd better go through with it.
Well, whatever you say.
But I wonder who could have done it. Surely Black Barney wouldn't have.
No. Powerful old Barney might absent-mindedly pull a locked door off its hinges to get in, but certainly he wouldn't be involved in ransacking my laboratory.
And anyhow, he's probably out at the test ship wondering why we don't get started.
Yes. Well then, come along, let's...
Better wait a second, Doctor. It may be another call for you. Central State. Oh, yes, sir. It's for you, Captain Rogers. Okay, Joe, thanks. Buck Rogers speaking.
Central Radio, Captain. Order from the office of the President. The entire rocket police fleet has been placed at your disposal.
What?
All regular patrol ships are standing by awaiting your orders. You have full authority to proceed along any lines you may see fit.
Now, wait a minute. Is this because of the trouble at Dr. Hewer's laboratory?
No, sir. Something happened to one of the guards at the municipal prison. The automatic alarm system was completely wrecked, and the guard found lying in a storage room under the effects of a paralysis ray.
Great Scott, man. Who did it?
Killer Kane and Ardela. And they've escaped.
Doctor! Wilma, did you hear that?
Yes, Buck.
The worst criminals the solar system has ever known.
How could Kane and Ardela have escaped?
I don't know, but one thing's sure, we're going to have to call off this test flight.
Not at all, Buck.
Huh?
Now we must go ahead with it.
But, Doctor...
It'll take far more than the ordinary rocket ship to track down that pair, and that's just exactly what our Gyro-Cosmic Realivator will provide.
Dr. Hugh is right, Buck.
Okay, then. Come on, let's go.
There's the ship, just waiting for us, and we can take off in it immediately.
Well, come on.
No, look!
There it goes! There goes our ship!
Well, somebody beat them to it. If you ask me, there's trouble ahead for our friends.
Well, there goes our rocket ship.
I don't understand.
Buck, who could have taken it?
Beyond me, Wilma.
And the new Gyro-Cosmic Realivator's on board.
Right. That's why it was able to take off so quickly.
Then whoever took it must have known about that Realivator.
You're probably right, Wilma. But Black Barney's the only person I've told anything.
Dr. Hewer.
Yes, Buck?
That message that came in from Central Radio Bureau just before we came outside here to get into that ship.
Killer Kane and Ardela.
Oh.
Sure. If they've just escaped from the municipal prison, the one thing they need most is a rocket ship. And those two wouldn't waste any time getting it.
You're right.
Yes, sir. They probably came right out here to the spaceport, saw our test ship standing there with nobody around it, and hopped right off in it.
Look there.
Huh?
They must have used one of those little air roadsters there to fly over here.
Unless they all belong to the workmen out here.
They certainly couldn't have walked out here in such a short time.
Well, come along anyway.
Well, where to, Doctor?
We'll take one of these little roadsters and go back to my laboratory.
Okay, come on.
You think there's some connection between this business of the stolen rocket ship and the report about the ransacking of your laboratory?
Exactly. Get in, Wilma.
Right.
Go ahead, Doctor. I'll take the controls.
Thank you. All ready, Buck?
Here we go.
Now, we may all be a little excited over the events of the past few minutes, but it's necessary that we take stock of the situation as calmly as possible and decide what we're going to do.
Good idea. The first thing that smacked of trouble was the call from Central Radio Bureau, saying someone had broken into your laboratory right after we'd left.
Yes. And right on top of that came word of Kane and Ardela's escape.
Yeah. Immediately afterward, our experimental rocket ship took off right in front of our faces.
And it's easy enough to figure out. Kane and Ardela broke out of prison, ransacked your laboratory for whatever equipment they could get hold of, raced over to the spaceport, and made a quick takeoff.
Sounds logical enough to me.
I still don't see how they covered so much ground in such a short space of time.
All depends on how long they were free before they were missed, Doctor.
Yes. Well, we'll find out when you reach my laboratory, if the rocket police is still there.
Right. But I wonder what happened to Black Barney. He and Willie were going to meet us at the spaceport.
Well, Willie, it looks like this new invention of Dr. Yours on this here new test ship don't work.
Yes, sir, Mr. Barney. I guess you're right, all right.
Sure. I got all the power on she'll take, and we ain't even begun to move yet.
What it was supposed to do was let us take off and be going 1,000 miles an hour right away, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, take a look out of the Matilla glass window and see if Lieutenant Wilmer and Captain Rogers and Dr. Yours coming out of the spaceport office to get into this here thing.
Yes, sir.
Well, are they coming, Willie? Or did the big rocket blast scare them away? Well, what is it? What about it? Why don't you answer me?
Mr. Barney.
Willie, what's the matter? You look like you just saw a ghost.
Look out of the window, Mr. Barney.
Huh? Sure, Huh? Hey, Willie!
The Earth's a couple of 100 miles below us.
But we didn't take off. You hear me? We didn't take off.
It must be Dr. Yours' invention. That's what did it.
Oh, but it couldn't be on account of we didn't take off, I tell you. Yeah, that's what it is, sure.
Boy, that's wonderful. Certainly had me scared for a minute, though.
Yeah, me too. Why, Willie, you mustn't let a little thing like that scare you. And don't you see? What we're doing is making the first official flying-out trip of the first rocket ship that was ever equipped with this new gyro thing.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, and we're saving them all the trouble of having to try it out.
I thought you said you wanted to take off in it before they could, so there wouldn't be any danger for them.
Yeah, that's right. For me and you to try it out is all okay on account of if it didn't work and the whole place blew up, it wouldn't make no difference. But I wouldn't want Lieutenant Wilmer or Captain Rogers or Dr. Ewart to take no chances with something new like this. So that's why we done it.
Boy, certainly a great invention. How does it work?
Well, there's a lot of technical things about it I'm afraid you wouldn't understand, Willie.
Well, I can try to understand, Mr. Barney. Tell me.
Okay. Now, this here is a machine bolted down right here.
Uh-huh.
And the stuff on the side of it here is some kind of electric cells.
Photoelectric cells.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But what are all these gears for?
Willie, that's what they call this sort of protono-hypnoto-deuterono teleradio and all that sort of stuff.
Huh?
You see, the gyro-atomic stuff on the super neutron goes around the ultra-hyper thing that's connected with the physics elementary.
Whoever ransacked this laboratory of mine certainly made a good job of it.
Yes, but Dr. Hewer,
Yes, Wilma?
where are the rocket police? Why are they going to wait here for us?
Oh, here's your answer, Wilma.
Yes?
What is it, Doctor?
A note from their captain. Here's...
Oh, Dr. Hewer. I've just received word of Kane Ardale break from municipal prison. Believe that to be a logical place for us to center activities. Signed, Captain Barton. And to be honest with you, I'm glad that they aren't here.
Why do you say that, Doctor?
It'd be much easier for just the three of us to look around here and see what's been taken.
That's true. Well, where do we start?
Subcosmic radio.
It's like Barney calling.
I'll take it.
I wonder where he can be calling from.
Well, Barney, this is Dr. Hewer. Well, yes, this is Dr. Hewer.
Well, Doctor, what do you think of me and Willie saving you folks a lot of risk and trouble, huh?
Where are you, Barney, and what are you doing?
Don't you know?
No, of course not.
Well, then guess. I dare you.
No, Barney, you tell me.
Why, Doctor, me and Willie's flying around up here in space trying out the new gyro thing of yours.
What? You mean you're in the test ship we had waiting for us at the spaceport?
Sure.
Well, but Barney, how...
Well, we figure the best way to keep you folks from risking yourselves by taking off with this new contraption was for us to do it.
Thank goodness it wasn't Kane and Ardale.
Barney.
Yeah?
Is everything all right? No trouble?
No, sir. The ship works fine. Of course, it took me and Willie a couple of minutes or two to get it all organized out.
How do you mean?
Well, when I first turned on the power, we didn't feel the ship moving under us. It was just the same thing as though we had the rocket power on, only we didn't have it on. Just like we was being held down by a big rope or stuff. But at the same time, we could hear the motors roaring.
Splendid. Then the new Gyro-Cosmic Realivator works perfectly.
Oh, good for you, Doctor.
Sure, Doctor, it works fine.
How about navigation with it? Any difference?
No, not a bit of difference, Doctor.
Well, then, even if you did deprive us of the privilege of making the first test with it, I'm mighty gratified to know the new Gyro-Cosmic Realivator works all right. And now...
Listen, Doctor.
Yes?
Would you please kind of do me a personal favor?
What is it, Barney?
Will you please say the name of this thing over again?
Well, surely.
You see, I started explaining it all out to Willie here.
Yes.
And when I come to telling him its name, it kind of slipped my mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know how it is, Doctor. I always got so many important things to think about all the time that them little details kind of slip my mind.
Poor old Barney.
So if you don't mind, would you say it for me just one more, please?
Barney, it's a Gyro-Cosmic Realivator.
You hear that, Willie?
Yes, sir. Gyro-Cosmic Realivator.
That's it.
You see, Doctor, didn't I always tell you that my Willie was going to be a great man someday? And that proves it.
Well, now, Barney.
Yeah?
We're having a little trouble down here, and we're badly in need of that ship you're in.
No kidding, Doctor.
Yes. And here's what I want you to do.
Yeah?
Cut off the power right away.
Yes, sir. There. Power's off, Doctor.
Good. Now, just as soon as we've finished talking, face that ship you're in around and head back for Earth just as fast as you safely can. We'll be waiting for you at the Central Spaceport.
Okay, Doctor. We'll turn back on the power again and head back for Earth as fast as we can. But would you mind telling me what the trouble is?
Killer Kane.
Kane?
Yes. He and Ardale have escaped.
Say, that's awful.
That's why we need the rocket ship with the Realivator.
Well, Doctor, we'll head right back again.
All right, Barney. Signing off.
They're signing off. You hear that, Willie?
Yes, sir. Pretty serious, isn't it?
Of course it is. And I guess they don't only need the rocket ship down there.
Huh?
They probably need me, too. When people like Kane and Ardale get loose, Willie, there's going to be a lot of trouble.
Well, then, let's get started back to Earth.
Yes, sir. Hang on for power. Yes, sir. Everywhere they go, there's trouble.
No, it's...
Killer Kane's dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
Yes, sir.
Why, if he was to see you coming at him, he'd like as not pull out a rocket pistol or a disintegrator and blow you where I am.
Oh, you aren't afraid of him, are you, Mr. Barney?
Oh, me?
Yes, sir.
Course I ain't. Me afraid of Killer Kane. That's a good big joke, that is.
Well, Barney?
Huh?
I can't tell you how glad I am to know that.
Hey, now, listen, you must have...
Exactly right, Willie. Killer Kane.
Well, with Kane right there aboard Black Barney's rocket ship, things don't look so good. But you're looking pretty good, Popsicle Pete. And where's that song you wrote?
Gosh, I can't think for all these people.
Oh, sure you can. Go ahead. They're all your pals.
All right, here goes. Popsicle, popsicle, fresh fruit ices on a stick. They're so good and they're so big. Popsicle, popsicle, save the bags and get a gift with Popsicle.
Well, that was perfectly terrific, Pete. And everybody loves popsicles. Those great big fresh fruit ices on a handy stick. The bags are just as good as money for wonderful free gifts. Popsicles are made fresh every day from fine, wholesome ingredients. Doesn't it make your mouth water just to think how good they taste in all those fresh fruit flavors and how long they last? The best, biggest nickels worth anywhere.
And don't forget, fellas and girls, save those bags from Popsicle, Fudgicle, and Creamsicle. And get those free presents. A camera, a wristwatch, jewelry, fishing tackle, hundreds of swell gifts. You'd better save bags every day.
Well, that was a blast. Funny, at the time, 1939, Buck Rogers was considered to be quite forward-thinking, but today, to some, it probably sounded silly. What you heard was the first 3 episodes of the story. What I did was combine them into a single show by removing commercials, summaries, and music bumpers. There were 12 episodes in all that completed that story. Now, I need your help. Do you want to hear the rest of the Gyro-Cosmic Realivator? Well, there are 2 ways to make this happen. We can donate podcast time and play at least one 14-minute episode per week. Or I can set up a page on the blog that will have all 12 episodes available, and you can listen to them at your leisure. What I did was set up a poll on the blog page so that you can tell me your preference. The one that gets the most votes, well, that's what we'll do. That poll is available right now and will remain open for the next 2 weeks, ending on April 15th. So please head to the blog site and make your choice. I will have a link available in the show notes, or you can just head to the blog site on your own. I'm looking forward to hearing what you want to do. Hard to believe, but that was episode number 485, and we're only 15 away from 500. This time, Corey Fletcher and Faye Rogers took part in the show. My thanks to both of you. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button makes us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.